In question 6, we're given the following diagram here, which we're told is a section through the thorax. We're then asked, when breathing out, i.e. expiring, what happens to the muscles at X and Y, and the pressure at Z? So X refers to these muscles here on the outside surface of the ribs, Y refers to this muscle here, i.e. the diaphragm at the base of the thorax, and Z refers to the pressure within the lungs. Okay, so bearing that in mind, we need to think about whether we have contraction or relaxation, and whether at Z there will be an increase or a decrease in pressure. Well, let's first think about Z, since that will help us understand what's going to be happening at X and Y. So the thing to remember is that inhalation and exhalation rely on air moving down a pressure gradient, either into or out of the lungs. So in inhalation, you want air to be moving into the lungs, fresh oxygenated air to be moving into the lungs, so you'll generate a low pressure within the lungs, therefore air can move down the pressure gradient from the high pressure surroundings to the low pressure lungs. By contrast, in exhalation, which is what we're thinking about, you want air to move out of the lungs, so therefore you want to generate a high pressure within the lungs and low pressure, a relatively low pressure outside of the lungs, therefore air will move out during expiration. So how could you generate a high pressure? Well, if you have the same volume, or rather the same air volume within a smaller cavity, you'll generate a higher pressure within the cavity, which is all that the thorax is. So in order to control the pressure of the cavity, we have muscles like muscles X and muscles Y, X referring to the external intercostal muscles and Y referring to the diaphragm. So we want these to contract and relax such that the pressure will be as high as possible, i.e. the thorax will be as small as possible. Well, X contracting, i.e. external intercostal muscles contracting, forces the ribs downwards in order to generate a high pressure at a smaller thorax. So X will be contracting, so we can write that down. In the case of Y, the diaphragm's natural rested state is a sort of peak, whereas when it contracts, it loosens down to increase the volume of the thorax. So we want Y to be in its domed state, which is when it's relaxed. So we want Y to be relaxed in order to make the thorax as small as possible. And finally, the pressure, as we know, we want it to go from low to higher so that there's expiration, so the pressure increases, and this corresponds to row B in our answer table, therefore our answer is option B.